Listen up, family. Stop what you are doing right now, because the storm 50 Cent has been quietly praying for just arrived on his doorstep with a golden envelope, and Jay-Z, the same untouchable Jay-Z who's spent 30 years walking through this culture like nothing could stick to him, is suddenly getting called out by his own peers in front of the whole world. And I am telling you, if you thought the Diddy documentary was the finale, you have not been paying attention. This is the aftershock. This is the part nobody in the industry wanted to happen. And in the next few minutes, I am going to walk you through exactly how 50 Cent just embarrassed every single rapper who tried to drag him, exactly what Buoy just said about Jay-Z that has the entire internet in a chokehold, and one bonus question at the end that is already breaking Twitter in half. Grab your drink. Grab your snack. Do not scroll away. Because trust me when I say this, some of the names you love are about to look very, very small by the time we are done. Okay, so let me set the table for you real quick, because half of the newer folks around here are still confused about how we even got to this moment. 50 Cent, love him or hate him, dropped that Sean Combs The Reckoning documentary on Netflix, and the second that thing went #1 on the entire platform in the entire world, something wild happened in the culture. It was not the fans that lost their minds. It was the rappers. It was the industry insiders. It was the same people who spent years pretending they did not see what everybody saw. And when I tell you they came out of every corner, every podcast, every Instagram live, every barbershop microphone in America to swing at 50 Cent, I am not exaggerating one bit. Papoose said something. Fabolous said something. Marlon Wayans said something. Rick Ross said something. T.I. said something. Family Mayo, Jim Jones, Dave East, even Dame Dash himself all crawled out with a hot take. And the way the entire industry ran at 50 Cent, you would have sworn 50 Cent was the one on trial, not the man the documentary was actually about. Think about how insane that is for a second. A documentary drops about somebody else, and the culture turns around and attacks the messenger. That right there is the moment that told 50 Cent everything he already suspected. And now, months later, karma is showing up with a bill. Because guess what just happened? Sean Combs' The Reckoning did not just trend. It did not just spark debate. It just picked up 3 Emmy nominations. 3. Outstanding Documentary or Nonfiction Series. Outstanding Directing for a Documentary or Nonfiction Program. And Outstanding Picture Editing for Nonfiction Programming. That is not a participation trophy. That is the highest institutional stamp the television industry gives out, and 50 Cent, the boy from Southside Queens, the one they said was petty, the one they said was clout chasing, the one they said should shut up and stay in his lane, is now sitting on 3 Emmy nods for a project that exposed one of the most protected men in hip-hop. And of course, because this is 50 Cent we are talking about, he did not just tweet a thank you. He did not do the graceful lap. He picked up his phone, opened Instagram, and lit the whole comment section on fire. Everybody had something to say when I announced it, he wrote. Now the Emmys got something to say too. 3 Emmy nominations for Sean Combs' The Reckoning. You cannot argue with the work. And listen, whether you love 50 Cent or hate him, you have to sit with that sentence for a second, because it is a receipt. It is a paper trail. It is a slap that does not require a hand. And of course, the internet immediately split down the middle. Because now we get to the funny part. The critics could not just say congratulations and keep it moving. No, they had to invent a whole new goalpost. One user came in swinging, saying that the Emmys do not mean anything unless 50 Cent goes and makes a documentary about, and I quote, the white boys who move like Diddy. That was the argument. That was the level of gymnastics. And another one hopped in and said white folks' approval do not mean nothing but money and fame, that it does not supersede the real dish, that 50 Cent should go make a documentary about one of those white boys on the same vibe and win an Emmy, and then, and only then, would he deserve any of this praise. And I am sitting here reading these comments like, my brother, my sister, what are we even doing? Because see, this is the exact trap 50 Cent has been outmaneuvering his entire career. They move the finish line every single time he crosses it. Because let us get into the facts, since apparently the facts left the chat. The people acting like 50 Cent is the first man to ever make a documentary on Sean Combs are either lying to you or lying to themselves. A quick internet search pulls up at least 10 different documentaries about Sean Combs already floating around out there. 10. So the idea that 50 Cent invented this genre, or that 50 Cent is the only person who saw a check in this topic, is complete and total fiction. The entire industry came for 50 Cent's neck like he was the first and last man on earth to point a camera at Sean Combs, and now that the Emmys have shown up with 3 nominations, suddenly the argument changes to, well, do a white one too. Come on now. Be serious. And here is the sharper point 50 Cent has been making, and honestly, this is the point that lives rent-free in my head. The last time Sean Combs lived anything close to a normal life, most of the people defending him were not even born. So when I see folks online saying us this and us that and we this, referring to a billionaire, referring to a man with private jets and private islands and private everything, referring to a man whose lived experience has almost nothing in common with the average person watching this video, I need you to understand how deep that programming goes. Because the concept these people are defending is not a person. It is an idea. And 50 Cent, for all the noise he makes, has been quietly explaining that difference for years. And that is why 50 Cent keeps winning. He plays the long game while everybody else plays the loud game. And by the way, since we are on the topic of quote-unquote white ones, let me remind you of 2 little details the loudest critics conveniently forgot. The Gilgo Beach Killer, that documentary that dropped and had the internet in a chokehold, was executive produced by, drum roll please, 50 Cent surviving El Chapo, another absolutely wild deep dive into criminal enterprise, was also executive produced by 50 Cent. So the story that 50 Cent only chases one color of villain is a bedtime story people tell themselves so they can sleep at night. But last time we checked, the receipts do not lie, the projects are on streaming platforms, and the credits at the end of each one say the same 3 little words. Executive producer, Curtis Jackson. And let me pause right here and read the room for a second, because a lot of you are still trying to figure out why every single one of those rappers came out swinging in the first place. Think about the timing. That documentary did not just drop and disappear. It did not go straight to the discount bin. It landed at #1 on Netflix in the entire world, and it stayed there long enough for every household in America with a subscription to at least see the thumbnail. When something moves that fast, that publicly, and involves that many powerful names, everybody in that ecosystem suddenly has a choice to make. Do you stand next to the messenger, or do you stand next to the friend? And most of these industry folks made a very telling decision. They chose the friend. Which, if you understand the culture, tells you almost everything you need to know about why the industry looks the way it looks. It is not a coincidence that the same crowd that never says a word about actual predators suddenly finds their voice the second somebody with receipts hits the record button. That is the pattern. That is what 50 Cent has been screaming about for years. And that is the pattern the 3 Emmy nominations just co-signed on live television. And here is something else worth chewing on. Notice which artists did not run out to defend Sean Combs on this one. Notice the silence from the ones with the biggest platforms and the tightest legal teams. Notice how the loudest defenders were mostly the ones who did not have the most to lose, while the ones who really had skin in the game went completely radio silent. That silence is not accidental. That silence is a strategy. And 50 Cent, whether you love him or roll your eyes at him, has been reading that silence like a book. Every single name that opened their mouth got tagged in his mental notebook. Every single name that stayed quiet got tagged too, just for different reasons. And that is why I keep telling you, you can call 50 Cent a lot of things, but never call him unprepared. This man plays chess while everybody else is still setting up the checkers board. So the takeaway on this first storm is very simple. 50 Cent is going to keep rubbing this documentary in every hater's face, and honestly, at this point, he has earned the victory lap. When the entire hip-hop industry comes for your head over a project, and the Television Academy comes back and hands you 3 nominations for that same project, you do not owe anybody an apology. You owe yourself a bigger cigar. And I promise you, before this year is out, 50 Cent is going to remind these rappers exactly who they tried to bury. But hold that thought, because part 2 of today's story is somehow even messier than part 1, and it is about a name that never seems to catch a real break in 2026, and that name is Jay-Z. Now, if you have been living under a nice quiet rock, let me get you up to speed real fast. Jay-Z, the same Jay-Z with the Rock Nation empire and the Brooklyn crown and the billionaire status and the seat at every table that matters, has been quietly dodging one very sticky story for years now. There is a young man out here named Rymir Satterthwaite. That name may be new to some of you, and I apologize if I am butchering the pronunciation. That young man is now in his early 30s, and he, along with his godmother, a woman named Lily Coley, have been standing on business for years, insisting on one very simple claim. That Jay-Z is his biological father. Rymir says his biological mother, who has since passed away, was involved with Jay-Z back in the mid-90s. And ever since Rymir got old enough to fight for his own name, he has been trying to get answers, trying to get a DNA test, trying to get Jay-Z to sit at a table and just take the swab. That is it. That is the entire ask. And of course, this being Jay-Z, this being the man with the deepest bench of lawyers in the entertainment business, this thing has been fought tooth and nail. A lawsuit went up. Rymir accused Jay-Z of hiding the truth. Rymir accused Jay-Z of causing him emotional distress. But the lawsuit did not survive. A judge tossed it last year. And then, in a plot twist you would only see in a courtroom drama, Jay-Z was awarded almost $120,000 in attorney fees and costs. Yes, you heard me. The young man trying to get a paternity test ends up on the hook for Jay-Z's lawyer bills. And to this very moment, as far as any public reporting goes, Jay-Z has not taken a DNA test. Not one. He has denied the claims from day one. He says he is being harassed. And that has been the official line for a very long time. Now, that would already be a spicy story on its own. But here is where it turns into gasoline. Because Buoy, yes, that Buoy, just dropped a new track called Reality Check Finish. And on that record, Buoy stepped straight into a topic most rappers with functioning survival instincts run from. Buoy looked at the whole Jay-Z paternity saga and put his verse where his mouth is. His words on the record went something like, some of them real, some of them not. Jay-Z, that child looked just like you. How could you live with that? Family, listen to me. That is not a subliminal. That is not a coded message. That is a direct heat-seeking missile aimed at the biggest name in the industry, delivered on wax, engraved into streaming history for the rest of time. And within hours, the internet did what the internet does. It caught fire. Now here is where it gets really interesting, because as soon as the smoke started rising, Buoy jumped on X to clarify his position. Buoy said, and I want you to read this with me, this is not a diss. This is real talk. This is reality. This is the truth. Did I tell a lie? And that little forward question at the end, did I tell a lie, is doing more damage than any diss track ever could. Because here's the thing. When you write bars aimed at somebody, they can call you a hater. When you post facts on a public timeline and dare somebody to fact-check you, they cannot call you anything without proving you wrong first. Buoy weaponized his own clarification, and the entire timeline knows it. And so the reactions came in waves. On one side, you have got people cheering Buoy like he is a folk hero. One user wrote, I am happy artists are finally starting to call Jay-Z out for his evil ways. Shout out to Buoy for calling out that deadbeat. Another one hopped in with, do every side mission, but that paternity test. And listen, when Google itself is not doing Jay-Z any favors, when you literally type in Rymir Satterthwaite and the search results themselves start telling a story, that is a public relations situation no PR team on earth can fully clean up. On the other side, you have got the Jay-Z loyalists, the ride or dies, and they are firing back with equal energy. Buoy is a cloud chaser, they said. Buoy is being messy for the sake of trending, they said. Buoy is out here acting like a girl feeding into rumors, they said. And my personal favorite, Buoy just used his own hand to ruin his legacy. This Jay-Z thing was unprovoked, they said. Love the track though. But then somebody with a very sharp keyboard, dropped in the line of the entire conversation. And it was this. How can Jay-Z live with himself, but admission would prove he was dealing with an underage female? We know why. But it is crazy how some get away with things others aren't. And that right there, family, is the sentence that stops the whole conversation cold. Because that is the piece of this puzzle that does not get talked about in the mainstream, but online, in the group chats, in the comments, on the reply timelines, everybody knows the rumor. According to the reports that have been floating around online, if the paternity claim is accurate, Rymir's mother would have been 16 years old at the time. 16. That is the whisper that hangs over the entire lawsuit. That is the reason a DNA test is not just a swab. That is the reason a swab could become a subpoena. And that is why, allegedly, this saga has been fought so hard for so long. And I want to be extra clear, this is all still alleged, this is all still rumor, this is not a court finding. But you cannot understand why Buoy's little verse is causing this much damage unless you understand what is sitting underneath it. And Rymir himself, the young man at the center of all this, hopped on X and thanked Buoy publicly. Rymir wrote, "Thanks Buoy, at this point our case is about fraud to hide a paternity, and we went to bankruptcy court to make attorneys accountable for their fraud against our property in New Jersey. So this is not just a rap beef anymore. This is a young man saying his fight has moved from paternity to fraud to real estate to bankruptcy court. Whether you believe him or you do not, the man is not walking away. And Jay-Z, for all his empire, cannot make him. And can we sit with that for a moment? Because that little sentence, admission would prove he was dealing with an underage female, is the sentence that changes the entire flavor of this conversation. That is not a paternity story anymore. That is not a lifestyle rumor anymore. That is a legal exposure story with teeth. And once you understand that layer, every single move Jay-Z's legal team has made over the years suddenly starts to look less like a defense and more like a moat. The lawyers, the motions, the dismissals, the fees, the public silence, the refusal to just take the test and end it. All of it starts to add up to the same picture. A picture where the risk of confirming a name might be much smaller than the risk of confirming a date. And that, family, is why this story will not go away no matter how many judges toss it out. Because rumor does not need a courtroom to keep breathing. Rumor only needs a timeline. And Jay-Z's timeline right now is not his friend. And here is the piece that really is going to have people arguing in my comments for the next week. This whole time, while everybody is watching Jay-Z, the mother of this saga is not around to speak for herself. She passed away. Which means the one voice that could actually add or subtract from the story is permanently unavailable. And that, on top of everything else, is why this thing hurts so different. Because Rymir is not just fighting for a name. Rymir is fighting for a version of his own mother's history that only 2 people ever fully knew. One of those people is gone. The other one has an army of attorneys and 0 incentive to talk. That is a mountain to climb. And whether you side with him or you side against him, you have to at least acknowledge how heavy that particular mountain is. So the question I keep getting in the comments is very simple. Do you think Buoy should have said something, or do you think Buoy should have minded his business? And honestly, both sides of this argument are valid. On the mind your business side, you can absolutely argue that this is a private family matter, that Rymir has his own path through the courts, and that Buoy sticking his verse into the middle of it is just going to muddy the water. On the other side, you can absolutely argue that Jay-Z has been given every soft landing this industry has ever offered, that if this happened to a lesser-known rapper we would already know every detail, and that a peer of Jay-Z's finally standing up and asking the question out loud is exactly what an accountability moment looks like. Drop your take in the comments, but I already know how this one is going to go, because Jay-Z, whether he likes it or not, has quietly inherited every single hater Kendrick Lamar build-up during the Drake situation. That fanbase did not disappear. It just switched targets. And Jay-Z, in ways he probably did not see coming, is now standing in the exact wind tunnel Drake was standing in 18 months ago, only this time the smoke is not from a diss record. This time the smoke is from a lawsuit, a paternity claim, a documentary wave, and a public that suddenly has an appetite for accountability instead of icons. That is a very different environment than the one Jay-Z built his brand in. And that environment shift, more than any single verse, is what should have Jay-Z's team pulling long hours right now. And now, before I let you go, because I always take care of the ones who make it to the end, we have to talk about the little post that has been eating the internet alive for the past 24 hours. Because a fan on X posted a very simple hypothetical. Lock these 6 rappers in a studio. Who is coming out with the best verse? 6 rappers. 1 studio. No team. No ghostwriters. No engineers doing overtime. Just 6 pens against 6 blank pages. And the moment I saw that post, my brain immediately jumped to a follow-up question that nobody was asking. Are they walking into that studio with their crew, or is it just the 6 of them alone? Because trust me, that changes the answer in a big, big way. But jokes aside, here is the honest truth. If you took every single one of those rappers, sat them down one at a time, put a microphone in their face, and asked them who they would actually be nervous about in that room, you already know exactly which name would come up over and over and over again. I do not have to spell it out. You have watched the interviews. You have seen the body language shift when that name comes up. You have seen grown men in the industry dance around that name like it is a live wire. And it is honestly kind of beautiful watching people on X do the same little dance in real time, tiptoeing around him, pretending the answer is not obvious, when the answer has been obvious for years. Some of you know exactly who I am talking about, and some of you are about to type his name in the comments right now, and I love you for it. So here is where I hand the mic to you. On the 50 Cent front, do you think he keeps swinging, or do you think 3 Emmy nominations is enough of a mic drop for 1 calendar year? On the Buoy and Jay-Z front, do you think Buoy did the right thing by putting that verse on wax, or do you think Buoy should have kept his opinion in his notes app? On the 6 rappers in a studio hypothetical, Do not be scared. Just say the name. Tell me who is walking out of that studio with the best verse. Drop all 3 answers in the comments, and I promise you I read every single one of them. And listen, if you made it all the way to this sentence, you're officially one of the real ones, and I owe you something. I have got a follow-up video coming very soon that dives into exactly what is happening behind the scenes with 50 Cent's next project, because there are already whispers about who is next on his list. And I do not think anybody is ready for the name that is being thrown around behind closed doors. So do yourself a favor, hit that subscribe button if you are new here, tap that bell so you do not miss the next drop, and I will see you very, very soon with more of everything you actually came here for. Until then, stay sharp, stay skeptical, and always check the receipts before you pick a side. Peace.